Hello and welcome to How to Lead Your Business with Peter Cox. You're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. How will you lead them? Join us for this podcast where we dive deep into business leadership. This is the podcast where business owners and entrepreneurs learn how to grow their leadership to unlock business and personal growth, empower teams and drive success. Whether you're a startup or scaling to the next level, we've got the insights, the strategies, the intellectual property you need to grow in leadership, to fuel your team and fuel your business to go to the next level. Let's get into this. Welcome to How to Lead Your Business, the podcast where we unpack real leadership journeys from real business owners who are building legacy, culture, and long-term success. I'm your host, Peter Cox, founder of Leadership Dynamics. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest, Scott Haggarty, CEO of the Haggarty Group, a fourth-generation family business with a 77-year history, employing hundreds of people, and now preparing for succession into the next generation with his son, Harrison. This conversation isn't just about business growth. It's about legacy. It's about culture. It's about resilience. And it's about what it truly takes to lead a multi-generational organization while staying grounded in humility and service. From scrap metal beginnings after the war to building a diversified group of businesses to preparing for a 100-year milestone, Scott shares powerful lessons on leadership, family, succession, accountability, and what it really means to care for your people. If you're a business owner thinking long-term, if you're building something bigger than yourself, or if you want your leadership to outlive you, this episode is for you. And before we dive in, make sure you subscribe to How to Lead Your Business on Spotify so you never miss an episode. Let's get into it. Well, welcome to the How to Lead Your Business podcast here with Peter Cox, founder of Leadership Dynamics, aka Coxie. I've got a very special guest for this podcast today, the owner and CEO, Scott Haggarty of the Haggarty Group, which is a 77-year business history, fourth generation succession planning with his son, Harry, who currently is being groomed to take over the business from Scott. Scott, thanks for taking your time from your busy schedule to spend a bit of time with Coxie today.
Hey, Coxie, how are you, mate?
I'm good. And we've known each other now for about 3 years, I'd say.
That's right. Yep, 3 busy years.
And it's been a interesting leadership journey together, how we came together.
It's been an awesome journey for us. Definitely a once-in-a-lifetime thing to have my son and myself working with you and then putting it across all of our GMs and leaders and progressive leaders of the business.
Tell us a bit about the family history. I mean, the business started 77 years ago. It's fourth generation. I haven't had anyone I've spoken to on this podcast that's had a business journey like that.
Yeah, Coxie, it's been a journey. There's no doubt about that. My grandfather, Jack Haggarty, who started the business, it was his third crack at being in business. He'd actually failed twice before, and as fate would have it, he ended up in Ipswich living with my grandmother's sister and her husband. And they had a bit of a journey before that. After the war, he fought in the war up in New Guinea, and then went into business with another man who ripped him off, and that fell down. They went into business with themselves and had a chook farm, and then the bird flu went through, and they ended up in Ipswich. And you got one door closing, another one opens, and that's when he starts the Haggarty Group.
And what was the original business, Scott?
Scrap metal. He started with scrap metal and picking up bottles and going around in the horse and cart, and also selling clothes props. And that's where he started. He was working at the railway workshops in Ipswich full time, and then he was doing this part time.
What's the biggest thing you learned from your grandfather?
Grandfather was a amazing entrepreneur, an absolute showman. Most of my family were actually, they could sing, dance, play piano, lots of things. He was a stand-up comedian. He's a very, very, very well-known, well-liked man in the community. He taught me a lot over the years. And obviously my dad and I worked together for about 30 years with my mum. And then now Harrison and myself work together with my nephew James as well. He's fourth generation, who you very well know.
And you have been 40 years in the business.
Yep, 40 years this year, Coxie.
And you're CEO, and you are grooming Harry, to take over the business.
That's right, yeah. And the story of how we started our Coxification was Harry's a smart young man. He's done a couple of degrees, and he's worked in the business since he was 8 years old on every holiday, worked on the farms on the weekends. So he's a very hard worker, very smart man. But he said to me, Dad, how are you going to teach me how to do the deals? How are you going to teach me how to build the business? Because since my dad and I were together, we built the business up. And then when I took over, we've probably built it, 10 to 20 fold since then. So I went out looking, and it was just one of those sliding door moments that your Rose rang me and said, hey, have I got a person for you? And the rest is history 3 years later.
I got to meet your amazing mum when she shared some of her story with me and the battles she's been through. She's a very resilient woman.
Yeah, Mum's 81, just turned 81 in December. It's something that, we've been talking about through a lot of our journeys with yourself, that, life is not easy. And I think everyone resonates back to that. But easy and easy is probably two different things. Back in their day when they had, dirt floors, no electricity, parents had just come back from the war. That's the sort of resilience that Mum and Dad came through. And obviously Mum now, still very, very active around the business, obviously not working in it. But often I'll say to Harry, if he needs an opinion on something, give Mum a call, and she's very cluey on exactly what's been happening and keeps up to date with who is around the business.
What was the biggest thing you learned from your father as a leader?
Oh, I think my dad worked in the bank to start with before he joined the business. So he had a really good background in systems. He when he came into the business, and he wasn't really looking to come in, my grandparents had both only had very small educations to probably grade 3 or 4. So Dad was a very process-driven, very, very interesting man, very much a mathematician. And so he started putting processes in place. So from a young age, I was taught processes. Write down everything you've got to do for the day, write down a list of what you've done for the day, tick that off, have a look at the end of the day, have you done enough? So I think that really started putting me in good stead for planning and making sure that the day went well.
So how many people in the Haggarty group? It's a few hundred people, isn't it?
Yeah, well, obviously, Coxie, as you know, we're across a lot of businesses now. And, yeah, I honestly couldn't tell you exactly, but it would be north of 200. And what we've been about is, we've had people with us for 46 years. Unfortunately, that man passed away last year from cancer, but he was with us 46 years. We had a 45 retired last year. We've got a fair few 40s, 38s. We're really longevity and having people for a long time is part of our ethos.
And what I've observed working with the Haggarty family, the Haggarty group, is how important family is to you, that you really want to make a difference in people's lives. It's not just about making money, it's about impacting and adding value to their lives and their own walk in life. Why is that so important to you?
I think it was from such a young age, it was drilled into us, and Dad always, when helping out on the holidays and stuff, and we dealt with people from all walks of life, but it doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. We're taught to treat everyone the same, whether it's a handicapped person coming in to bring their aluminium cans for recycling, or it's a multimillionaire wanting to buy something that we sell. We treat them all the same, and we give the people the service that they deserve, and the same with our people who work for us. I mean, it's just been a lifelong journey of, my grandmother used to take in people under her house and look after them, swaggies and people on their journeys through the country.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
It's just been brought up in our life. My mum and dad took on a foster child when we were young. My mum and dad started Ipswich Women's Shelter in the 70s. Dad was a co-founder of UP, Young Unemployed People of Ipswich. He was the president of Ipswich Community Aid for 25 years. It's really just what we've been brought up with when we want to look after people, and certainly looking after people who work for us has just been really, really part of our DNA.
And what is leadership to you right now? I mean, we've been on a leadership journey for 3 years. What is leadership to you?
Well, I think, Coxie, you've taught me about leadership. I think my parents and my grandparents taught me about leadership, but, informally, leadership since we've come to you and putting it through our leadership group has been an amazing journey. But, leadership, I really feel has been part of everything that I've been doing over the years, but formalising that and actually helping people, putting things in place, putting plans in place, giving clear direction. I think you've taught me, many things, but, if there's not clear direction, then, it just can't keep going.
And what is culture to you? Because that's a big part of the Haggarty Group, growing that culture, like the high performance event we did up in the mountains recently. What is culture to you?
Mate, culture is really accountability and, respect for what we're doing, respect for people around us, respect for our clients. Because, being in business for 77 years, a culture of service, and that's what we put on our letterheads, our things over the time. We're servicing the community since 1949, and that's what we've been doing. So my grandfather always said, without service, we're nothing. Without our clients, we're nothing. So, without our people, that's our biggest asset, we're nothing. So I think that culture is such a big part of every day.
And you hear a lot about culture, but culture is just a word. To grow culture, to improve culture, good leadership, good culture, bad leadership, bad culture. So as we improve the leadership of an organisation, the culture is going to improve because leaders drive the culture. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. And I mean, what you've taught us, as I said, putting things down in writing, clear expectations, what you walk past is what you'll accept. We've got to celebrate the win, something that you really taught us, and Harry's taken up that. Celebrate the wins, because, we're so busy all the time going from one thing to another. Celebrating those wins with our people has been something that since we've joined you, we've been doing. Facing the issues immediately, not letting them fester, and, really a zero tolerance for excuses. I mean, that's been a hard thing for us to come to a realisation. Also, putting A graders on, looking for A graders. It's something that, we've really now taken that to the next step, and we're getting these A graders in.
You never stop recruiting?
A graders.
Mm-hmm. And what do A graders bring to your culture?
Mate, they bring another whole different level to the culture, and that's what I always say to them. We're willing to change. We're not, just because we've been going 77 years, we're not stuck in our ways. I think that's what the secret of our success has been. We are very nimble. We're able to change. We're able to come against a rock and pivot, and we'll go in other directions. So I think that's what, with our A graders, what why we're starting to recruit some of these people, because we do make decisions quickly. We're very easy to get along with, and we're very clear on expectations.
Change equals progress. Without change, there can be no progress. What you are not changing, you are choosing. Change something or change nothing. Welcome to leadership. Leaders are catalysts for change. They implement change. If you're not creating change, you're not leading. That's what leadership is. And the changes that you make, the positive changes you make, will impact your culture and your leadership journey. What are 3 key leadership behaviours you believe you need to grow? If there's a business owner listening to a very successful businessman like yourself right now, Scott, 3 behaviours you think, if you're a business owner, maybe you've just started your business, maybe you're in a business for 5 years, 10 years, 3 years, what's 3 behaviours you think they need to really grow to become an effective owner of a business and leader?
No success without a successor, number 1. Mm-hmm. Change the people or change the people. Sounds like a Coxie. Character is founded on principles. Character is a series of choices you make. I think there's quite a few things there that we've been learning and we've been going through. But that clear planning, strong leaders, grow stronger people. I think there's many things that you've taught us that we bring into the business on a daily basis. But that clear expectation, the clear plan, you can't beat it, and people love it.
What's the biggest change you've seen in Harrison, your son, who's really stepping into leading a very big organisation at a very young age? 25 years, isn't he? 25, 26?
26, yep.
26 years of age, huge responsibility, multiple businesses, couple of hundred people he's leading. Okay, right. What's the biggest leadership changes you've observed with him going through the one-on-one process, which he's done 36 times with me and you? Where do you think he's at as a young 26-year-old leader right now?
I know, Coxie, it's difficult because he's my son, but you say it all the time. He's not a normal 25 or 26-year-old, but what he's done is he's empowered people. He's made them accountable. He's accelerating the business. He started his first joint venture business last year on his own as part of the group, but that with the roof rollers, setting clear expectations, KPIs, upgrading the technology. When he first came into the business full time, I said to him, we need to, get a new CRM, ERM, and he's done that, and he's implemented that into 3 or 4 of the companies, and he's got one more to go this year, which is a major. Sitting down with some of the people who've been with us 30 years and their expectations, and I keep trying to explain to him that when you're older, you just don't pick up things as quickly. So he's sat down with some of these ladies, been with us 30 years, taught them the systems, been with them, sitting side by side week after week to get them up to speed. I think that's, for a young man like that, it just, his head is far above his age.
This is really important, A critical component of effective leadership is allowing yourself to be led. Okay, who leads you, and you're his dad. Okay, but he's being led independently by me. What for any business owner out there that's leading themselves or wants to grow their leadership, could you just give a bit of insight about the power of having someone independent that is a leader, that is successful in life, leading your son, the power of that, instead of you, the dad, trying to do that?
I've always been that person, Coxie, that, I know what I know, and, I don't know what I don't know, but, and I have always listened to people, and, with finding yourself and putting Harry through that, it's just taken him to another level. And I always say this, tongue in cheek, he's smarter than myself, but I've got those 40 years of hard knocks and, working with my dad, who was a very, very tough man, bring me through the hard knocks. For Harry to be able to have yourself there to, draw off all your experiences. And that's one thing that I did say to you the other day was, you put your life out there so you can be so touchable with everyone. You're not someone on a pedestal. You're there, you say what's happened in your life. And I think that's teaching Harry something too. I think some people in business look up to people and they go, wow, they're untouchable, but they're only humans. And I think that's what you bring, the humility back to being a leader. And it's something that I've looked at, and I always thought, well, if I tell people what I've happened in my life, I'll be weaker. But you've actually turned it into making you stronger, and people really respect that. And I think that's what Harry's looking at now, and really getting these people around him. Clear expectation is something that you've taught him, and I think that really takes him.
That's excellent what you've just shared. The number one characteristic of a leader is influence, and influence means follow me. The number one driver of engagement in a culture is trust, growing trust with the people you lead. To grow trust, you need influence. Influence means follow me. If I don't trust you, I won't follow you. So if you want people to trust you, you need to show some level of vulnerability as a business owner or as a leader, and let people into your life, your journey, your story, the challenges you've been through to earn trust. And transparency grows trust. And that's what Scott's talking about there. You can't change your story. Your story is your story, the ups and downs of your life. But when you share your story with people that you lead, it will grow your influence because they trust you more. And the more successful you become in life, the more you need to do it, or people think you are untouchable, and it actually dilutes your influence. And you can end up becoming a very lonely person, even though people want to be around you. And I learned that from my mentor of 22 years, Jim, who was a multi-millionaire in the US. He had the private jets, he had the yachts, he had the chefs, he had all the houses all over the US. But he was so good at telling his story. He was such a good storyteller. And he's told his story with humility. And I learned that from watching my mentor sow his story into my life. And it was a game changer for me. What have you learned being led independently? You're a very successful businessman, entrepreneur, very successful family legacy of 77 years, and you spend time with me every month being led independently, as well as your son Harry. What's some things you've learned about that process with someone like me? And what do I know about all the 19 businesses you've got? What are you learning?
Yeah, look, so much, Peter, so much, because as I said, I've not had the university background. Yeah, I've done some study, but not the university background like Harry's had. I think what you've really been able to do is keep us a bit focused. And, there's no success without sacrifice. That life's not easy. Own it and make it happen. Know yourself first, lead yourself first. Those are the things that really resonated to us, because I think sometimes we were trying to do too many things. The guilt and regret kill momentum. They're all the things that you've taught us, that we have to keep that clarity. We have to be positive as leaders. You get me to go around to my businesses at least once a month, and I know all the people. It's great to go to one of the factories and they give me a hug and all that sort of stuff. But it's about that really getting down to the nitty gritty and giving your leaders just that clear guidance, and I think that's something that we weren't really good at doing before, we were with you.
Great leaders cast vision. We've done a lot on the Haggarty Group vision. As a business owner, you've got to know what your vision is. You've got to start with the end in mind. You've got to know what your sweet spots are. What are your key strategies to deliver on that vision? What's something you've taken away from the vision launches we've done and the high performance function that we recently did up there in the mountains there in the Gold Coast. What was about vision?
Oh, look, it's something that yourself and Harry have been really great at doing. It's something that I wasn't fantastic at doing, because I'm someone who just goes and makes things happen, and I'm not looking for something to happen, but someone will come along with an idea or an opportunity, and I'll make it happen. But that doesn't really help your leaders and in your business. You need that clear vision. And so what we sat down with yourself last year and did 3 days of planning, and that's what Harry and yourself absolutely love that stuff, and I did enjoy it as well. But sitting down with our leaders, planning out 1 and 3 year visions, I think it's just been, you can't beat it. You've got to have that vision there, and it just, the clarity for our people and for them to take it through to their teams. You know, I've been writing out the thank yous and over the last few days for the people that we had at the leadership retreat. And, you know, just writing down some of the things that I got from it and asking them to come back to me with what they got from it. But, you know, just spending that time, that one-on-one time with them, downloading them and giving them the help that they need, it's helped exponentially.
Yeah, it does. Theodore Roosevelt said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And what have you learned about, and you've cared for your people for 77 years. You wouldn't be in business for that long if you weren't good people, treating people right. How important is the care factor and to add value and meaning to people's lives in your business?
Oh, it's been everything, Peter. I mean, what we've done for people over the years, and we've been a very quiet like that. We haven't sort of gone into the world and said, oh, we've done this for someone or we've done that for someone. It's not about the kudos or anything like that. It's just about helping people and real help and making sure that they are looked after. And you know the journey we put some of those people through with yourself. You know, I've had some tough times, and I've probably saved 1 or 2 people's lives. And it's just so good to be able to work with those people and see how they're growing, and you know, yourself, 1 or 2 of them do your one-on-ones and, you know, change their life. You know, they take it home, they do the one-on-ones with their wives, that they're reading books, it's changed their life. So that to me, it's better than making any deal or any money. It's seeing those people and their families flourish, and that's what it's all been about for us.
How important do you think having dreams are as a business owner, having goals, you know? How important, because, you know, if it was that easy, everyone would be successful in business. And as you know, only 1% of business owners really get what it's not easy being a business owner. If you're a business owner listening to this right now, I've been in business for 37 years. I'm nowhere near the Haggarty family, but I came out of the western suburbs of sitting with my wife. We started our first business with $11 in the bank, but I'm not a Haggarty family story, but some of our dreams and our goals gave us the motivation to get through the tough times. How important do you think dream building is and goal setting is to get through the tough times as a business owner and rewarding yourself?
Look, I think it's so important, Peter, and something that we haven't formally done much of over the years until we were with yourself. But, you know, my family went through ups and downs through things. I remember Dad having to reduce his wage. I remember early on in his, when he was working in the business, he had 3 jobs. That it's not been easy, and it's not been a walk in the park. You know, we've had some failures over the years, and it's been tough. And, you know, I think that, you know, everyone says the cliche, life's not easy, but I think when you break it down, and what we did at the retreat was go through people and talk to them and hear their story and work together to understand that, yeah, life's not easy, and it's come a full circle for us. But putting your goals and your dreams down, I really love working with my people about their goals and dreams, because I like to make their goals and dreams come true. And, you know, I've helped some people into houses, you know, that they never, ever thought they'd own a house. Some people into holidays. We've even put, you know, their children through private schooling because they've had trouble at public schools. You know, these are the goals and dreams that I say to people, don't ever stop dreaming. You know, unless you shoot for the stars, you're never going to get there.
Yeah. And you...
Let me pause for a moment and speak directly to the business owners listening. One of the biggest frustrations I see with business owners is you're working hard, but your team really isn't climbing with you. You're solving problems they should be solving. You're chasing accountability. You're carrying the emotional weight of the culture. Leadership can feel lonely. That's why we are launching something called The Climb. It's a leadership community built specifically for small and medium business owners who want to grow strong teams, eliminate the drama, and build a business that doesn't rely solely on them. No fluff, no theory for theory's sake, just practical leadership frameworks, live sessions, mentoring, and a room full of other owners who really get it. We haven't launched it yet, but we're building it right now. If you want to be part of something that sharpens your leadership and strengthens your culture, keep listening. We'll be sharing more soon. Now let's get back to the episode.
Humility, the way you live your life, Scott. I'm very privileged to be part of your life and your son's life, but there is zero arrogance I've picked up from you in 3 years about where you're at in life. For you, there's no doubt you live an extraordinary life, but there's real humility the way you live your life, and you know you deserve all the success you get over the 77-year journey of your family. 40 years in that seat you've been being part of that family business and now leading it, and you're such a great example for your son Harrison, seeing that humility and not arrogance with real success. Because you know, I've been around arrogant, wealthy people, but you are the complete opposite. And I think that's why people follow you as well. What would you say to that when I talk about that?
Oh, thanks, Pete. I mean, it's, as I said, it's something that my mum and dad taught me from such a young age, and being in Ipswich, you know, growing up there, it's a very wealthy town. There's some very wealthy families, and mum and dad, because they were in and around those sorts of people with Rotaries and things like that to get donations to help these other people and help the UP unemployed people of Ipswich. Because after, you know, the mines closed down, you know, youth unemployment in Ipswich was up around 25%. So the same with women's shelter. Mum and dad tirelessly worked, you know, with Ipswich Women's Shelter, one of the first women's shelters around Australia. So it's been a whole vision. But one of the things I'll hark back to, I saw, you know, one of these men who Dad used to do business with had this massive big Mercedes, and I go, wow, Dad, look at that, you know. Anyway, after we'd finished this function, he took us around to have a look at his house, and he goes, this is where he lives. He go, Dad, but he drives this big Mercedes. He said, yeah, it's all show. He said, here's his house, little house, and he's got a big Mercedes, you know. So we've been very, very careful in life to make sure that we've got the right sort of values and that we are helping people, and we want to show those people that, you know, we want to help them. And then, yes, we very, very busy lives, and it's about trying to spend time with the right people and your family. I mean, you and I spoke the other day about, you know, people hark on about it all the time, but unfortunately, you know, you've got there's no success without sacrifice, and there's no doubt that my kids, you know, were sacrificed at a young age because I was building a business and going through that. And Harry now, you know, works too hard and too long, and I try and keep his feet on the ground with that. But, you know, it's hard to teach that. It's a culture that comes with. He's been around me, you know, all of, you know, his life, and seen my work ethic, and my people are the same. And I could pick up the phone to time of the day or night, and I know they'd be there to help me no matter what the situation. I think that's really important.
What advice would you give to a business owner that's starting to make it? They're starting to make money. They've got momentum. For the first time in their life, they're making serious profit in their business. What advice would you give to a business owner that's listening to this right now?
I'd say diversification is a key. I mean, my family wealth has been through property. I think businesses are vehicles, to make money, but I think the real wealth for us is in property. We've never really done too many things with other people, as in had joint ventures or other people we've been in business with. But in the last 5 years, as you know, we've been in business with Kane Keefe, who's been an absolute superstar in my life, and I bring him in as part of my family because he's a family I chose. So I think sometimes in the past we've sort of shied away from being in business with other people. I would say obviously vet who you're going to be in business with, but I think it brings another idea or someone else to bounce things off, because often, in your life with your wife and your kids, you take home some of those frustrations, and it's good to have other people around to unload some of those things with.
Yeah, the association factor. Those closest to the leader will determine that leader's success. John Maxwell, who you associate with, who you surround yourself with is so important. So as a business owner, what would you say to that, Scott, about how important it is who advises you, who leads you, who surrounds you?
Oh, look, it's absolutely, and I've made this an ethos with my children, and made sure that they were around good people, and it's so. You think you're stepping over the line with your children, saying no, you can't be around that person or whatever. But I can tell you, you look at Harry and the amazing group of people that he's built, and I think that's the same in business. You want to surround yourself with good people, and they don't have to be, millionaires or billionaires. The good people, can be hardworking, salt of the earth people. But have someone there, and have people around who really are going to, help your success. And that's what I've got in my life. I've got beautiful friends who not very well off, but they are just always so happy for your wins, to be there for you. So the same thing with Harry all the time. Surround yourself with those good people. And in business, you got to surround yourself with good suppliers, good subcontractors. Salt of the earth people. You don't want to deal with sharks, and you don't want to. There's no quick buck out there. It's a hard slog, and if it is too good to be true, it sounds too good to be true. It is too good.
No, I mean, it is. What's the biggest personal change you think you've made in the last 3 years when you've really made a decision to become a better leader for your son so that he can take over the business?
Oh, I think you re-engaged me back. You gave me another lease on business life. I was sort of backing out of the business a bit and working on it, not in it. Growing some of the other parts of the businesses and stuff. And I think you've sort of reignited me to step back in and really try and lead by example and help my leaders. I mean, even on the leadership, weekend we did, talking to those emerging leaders and saying, hey, just give me a call. I'll come and sit with you, come and help you with your teams, come and share the experiences that I've had. So I think that's where you've got to be able to be really touchable for your people. And that's what you've taught me, and that's what I said before. I always make sure I get to all the businesses at least once a month, some more, but at least once a month, to actually go around, talk to people, how they're going. Obviously, as you know, we bring a certain amount of people through your leadership, one-on-ones. We'd like to do more, but, there's only so many you can do. And obviously then from that, you give us the rundown every month on how they're going, and, us to sit down and do their one-on-ones is really important.
spending one-on-one time in a formalised manner with your key people, how's that been a great tool, leadership tool for you to grow leaders?
Well, it has, because, you know, you and Harry, you know, have said quite a lot. You know, I talk to a lot of people on the phone, and I felt before that I was in touch with them. But I think you've taught me that, you know, being one-on-one, spending that time with them, it's it's a multiplier. That's what you told me the other day. It's a multiplier effect, you know, and that's really what we're doing, you know. Yeah, getting that involved, doing the breakfast once a week with people, growing that trust, and just talking to them, being there for them. I think it's really taking us to the next level of business, and you know, people wanting to come and work for us, you know.
And people wanting to come to work for you in business, that's a big part of recruitment, right? And a lot of market research shows that 90% of people now research culture before they decide whether they're going to change companies, change businesses, and go to somebody else to work for them, right? What moving forward, what do you think culture needs to be in businesses to attract A-graders?
Mate, I you know, before COVID, I would never have let anyone work from home in any of our businesses. That would have been the last thing I would ever have done. I think, but now I think we have, I don't know how many people, 20 plus people who work remotely. Isn't it funny how something as bad as COVID, you know, just changes our lives? And I think, what does that tell you? That you can't be closed-minded to looking at different things. And you know, even as much as I said before that, you know, we've been very nimble, you know, we've been able to change our business over the years. But, you know, it's just something like that's changed. So I think you've got to look outside the square. You've got to talk to your people. I always, you know, say to people when they come and work for us, if you've got a better way of doing it, we'll change it tomorrow, because I'm not going to tell you that we're doing something for 77 years. We have to do it for the next 77. So really looking for those ways to be different out there. And you know, told you the story the other day of, you know, we've got a truck driver working for us, and he's a single dad. And he had a really good job in the mines, but unfortunately he's a single dad now, and he can't afford to put his children in after school care and holiday care. So, you know, brings them into work, and they were getting picked up the other day by their grandmother. And I said to him in front of the children, I can't believe how well behaved you children are. You know, they sit in the boardroom and they play games and they do things. And he said to me, he said, I can't thank you and your family enough for giving me this opportunity. And I said, mate, I can't thank you enough for working for us, you know. So I think it's one of those things that you've got to really look at these days. And I know you can't do it for everyone, but I just love trying to do different things for people. I remember telling you the story about the lady who worked for me for 13 years. After she was with us 6 or 7 years, had her first child, and I rang her up, how you going? She says, I'm really bored. I said, well, come back to work. She said, don't want to put my child in daycare. I said, no, I'll give you an office and you can put the child in there. And she did that until the child was 1 year old, and then did it again with her second child. I think it's the way you try and look after people is obviously dependent on how good they are and how committed they are to the business. But, you know, once you've got that commitment, you know, it's there forever.
Wow. You measure a person by the size of their heart. If you're listening to this podcast right now, the How to Lead Your Business podcast with Coxie from Leadership Dynamics, you are with a very special human being today, Scott Haggarty, CEO and owner of the Haggarty Group, with what he just shared there about the care for his people, how he lets them even bring their kids to work, which is be part of that family culture. Is very, very unique thinking. But is it any wonder the business is still going after 77 years with that Haggarty heart? It's the heart and spirit of a human being that will determine what sort of culture and what sort of climate environment we are going to grow and build in. It comes from the heart of a human being. And that was pretty amazing what you just shared then, Scott, being transparent about those couple of stories, because that definitely did come from your heart. Just to wrap it up, Scott, if there's one last thing you'd say to the listeners today, they're in their cars, they're in their showers, they may be lying in bed listening to you, Scott. Who knows where they are listening to this podcast? What would you say to a business owner out there right now that wants to make it big in business and big in life?
Mate, I think you've got to be true to yourself, know who you are, and have clear planning. Strong leaders need strong plans. They need clear, precise planning. And as I said before, the standard you walk past is the standard you accept. So you have to be really, really true to yourself when you actually start doing this. And that's the thing I think you've brought to our minds and hearts, Coxie, is that, you can say things, words are cheap, but it's actually the actions that speak louder than words. And as a leader, as a family business for 77 years, we've been taught actions. And I think that's the real key here. We can talk, we can write it all down, we can put the vision out there, but if you don't actually lead by example, you're nowhere.
And the last conversation we had for those of you that are listening right now was about Harrison leading a 100-year-old business in 23 years' time. We spoke about that on the weekend. It was a bit of a weird conversation, but he will be 49 years of age when the business hits 100 for the Haggarty Group. It's been a really remarkable interview with a very special leader, human being, entrepreneur, very successful in life, great humility, and we'll see you at the next How to Lead Your Business podcast with my next special guest. Thanks for your time, and thank you for giving up your time, Scott.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
What an extraordinary conversation with Scott Haggarty. There are some powerful leadership truths in today's discussion. Longevity in business is built on service and strong culture. Leadership is formalized through clear expectations and accountability. Succession doesn't happen by accident. It requires intention and development. And perhaps most importantly, success without humility will eventually erode influence. Scott's story reminds all of us that culture isn't created by slogans. It's built by consistent actions, care for people, and leaders who are willing to grow themselves first. A 77-year business doesn't survive on luck. It survives on leadership. And that's exactly why we're building something new. Coming soon, we'll be launching The Climb, a leadership community for business owners who are serious about building strong teams, healthy cultures, and businesses that last. If today's conversation resonated with you, The Climb is being designed for leaders like you, people who want to grow stronger, lead better, and stop carrying the weight of business alone. We'll share more details soon. In the meantime, take a moment to share this episode with other business owners who need to hear it. And be sure to subscribe to How to Lead Your Business on Spotify so you don't miss future conversations with founders and amazing leaders shaping the future of business. Until next time, keep building, keep growing, keep climbing. And remember, everything rises and falls on leadership. John Maxwell.